Hey everyone, my name is Ben Gromyko. I'm from InterNACHI, that's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, world's largest organization of residential and commercial property inspectors. And we also do free online live interactive webinars at nachi.org/webinars, nachi.org/webinars. And if you're attending this live webinar, we have a special guest today, Lee Eckroth from Majordomo. And this is a really cool service. If I were a home inspector today, I no longer do inspections unless we're filming for training videos, I'd be hooked up with this. And Lee's gonna walk us through this entire program. And I've taken a look at it and it looks really good. Honestly, I think I would tell all of my real estate agents to use this service, and you're gonna learn why. And so stick with us for this webinar. If you want to ask questions during the live webinar, feel free. There's some kind of button somewhere on your side that says questions and answers, or a chat. I'll take a look at that. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also ask questions there. Or if you want to talk to Lee later on, whoops, you could do that too. He'll give his contact information. He'll give his contact information after the webinar, and you can look at the Majordomo's site in detail. One of the things that home inspectors don't like to do is share information about their client without their permission. So InterNACHI has a code of ethics right here, InterNACHI Code of Ethics. All members have to abide by the Code of Ethics. There's a couple clauses in there that help distinguish you as a home inspector from all the other contractors out there who may be having a conflict of interest, right? We like to be standing tall and independent and neutral, third party, providing information without any bias. And so Lee's gonna address that as well. We don't want to, we would just wanna start off with that if you're thinking about, there's a concern about that. Well, there's the Majordomo site if you're on the live webinar, and it's a great service. Again, I would use it. So let's begin with the webinar. Lee Eckroth from Majordomo, are you there?
Yeah, hey Ben, how are you?
I'm doing great, Lee. Hey, thank
Excellent.
you so much for taking your precious time to share information for our home inspectors so that they can provide a service that is better and more valuable than they do currently. And also, you have a cool term that I really wasn't thinking about. It's the second half of the home inspection.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about that.
for sure. So thanks for having us today. And we're big fans of home inspectors. We actually think of every home inspection as a piece of art, right? We think about it like the home inspector comes in and they gather this data and they put it together and they deliver it into this moment of time. And we backed up when we started this company and said, you know, how can this information really be used to help that homeowner be the best possible homeowner to create better communities, to create better homes. And literally that's how the name of our company was born, which is Majordomo. And the definition of Majordomo is the head steward of a large household. Think of it like a butler. And so the whole general theme of our company is to build on that idea of taking control and being that head steward of that home. And so, yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We look forward to sharing today what we do and how we do it. Before we jump in, I do want to touch on your question on the privacy issue. We take privacy very, very seriously on our side regarding both securing data, keeping the data of the homeowner secure, and our relationships with our agents and our inspectors. What that means is no order comes through from a home inspector or from an agent without their client's approval on that. And so that's a relationship piece that we know is in place. All the home inspections that we get are coming with other people's authorization, not just based on someone just sending it our way prior. So that's a key part of what we do is those privacy, keeping that information private, especially that home data, which you know, is super private to those homeowners. So
Great.
So hopefully that helps. Yeah.
So feel free to take over the screen.
Great. All right, so we're gonna actually start here. So,
Yeah.
and I'll do my best to make it through each slide here as we go along.
Sure.
So today we're gonna first talk about what we call the second half of the home inspection. That is that time after the buyer and the agent get that home inspection. But leading up to that, I want to talk a little bit about what the process looks like going into the home inspection, so that everybody kind of is on the same page and gets a good feel of that. So we're going to spend our time in that space, and as we go along here, if you have questions, we can run through that. But I want to kind of lay that groundwork, and then we'll work our way through. All right, so let's first talk about the real estate trend. Let's talk about the history for a little bit. So we saw home inspections really came about and got themselves formalized in the 1970s. In the 1980s through the 1990s, we saw the MLS really come alive. In 1998, the listings for homes went online, which was a good thing. In 2007, we saw Zillow come online, and they changed everything. They were like kind of the granddaddy of real estate that put all this information online for homeowners to know and learn and to go forward. And the good news is that the home inspection industry has seen some dramatic growth in that time also. From all of our studies, we see companies like HomeGauge, Inspectora, and DJ, and we start to add to that companies like DocuSign, and then most recently a company called Better Mortgage come out. And these are all companies who are using technology to really better the space, make the information more deliverable, easier to understand, and all those pieces. So from a historical standpoint, we've seen a dramatic change in how real estate happens, especially in the last 20 years. And what we haven't seen in that time is much change in what we call the second half of the home inspection. So before we jump into that home inspection, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the current home buying process, because we think that's important to understand. So let's kind of start with where the buyer comes from. So buyers come into this process because something happened in their life, some sort of change happened. Maybe they got a new job, maybe they're retiring, or they have new kids, or whatever that may be. So buyers get excited and they decide it's time to make a purchase. Currently, you get about 88% of the home buyers who the first thing they do is jump online and start shopping for homes. Then they will go and engage their real estate agent to help them start looking at homes, going out and tire kicking. In today's world, they're spending more and more time online looking at virtual tours, becoming familiar with those homes and trying to become comfortable. We then take the next step, which is that real estate agent will recommend a mortgage broker. They'll start to recommend people like home inspectors and others who can help in the process. The buyer writes up an offer. Sometimes it gets accepted, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they have to make multiple offers to get there. Finally, we go into the negotiations. They get the house under contract, which is exciting, super exciting for them. And then the hard work starts. And a big part of that is the timelines for lending and for the home inspection process. And the home inspection process is the piece that starts to get people pretty excited, because most transactions will have a certain amount of time that somebody can use to inspect a home to their satisfaction and make it through all those negotiations. Typically, that's somewhere between 8 and 15 days to make that process work. And it's a super tight timeline to kind of roll through, but it's a place where there is a high level of stress. Deals can fall apart. Information is hard to come by. And so that is where we decided to put our focuses in that time. So that's kind of a review of the process. Do you think I missed anything there, Ben, or is that kind of a good overview from what you understand?
That's good. That's a good overview. Okay. Yep. And it's David Hasselhoff.
I was hoping you'd get there. And let's say this. I didn't get a chance earlier to recognize my partner, James Furlow. He's in the background helping me a lot as far as creativity goes. And we can thank James for bringing David Hasselhoff into our presentation today. Yeah. So let's jump into that next step, which is that home inspection. So once a buyer gets that home under contract, they take that contract, they deliver it to their lender and say, hey, I need to get a loan. And the process is kind of out of their hands at that point. Their real estate agent and the other agent open up escrow, and things happen like title searches, and that is completely out of the hands of the home buyer. What's not out of their hands is the home inspection process. They end up relying heavily on their real estate agent for recommendations of home inspectors to get a great home inspector to make that happen. And so a buyer or their agent calls up the home inspection company or the home inspector and says, hey, we need a home inspection. And they come out and make that happen. What we have learned, a couple of things, which I think is a great overview that really kind of lays into this fact of it's a challenging time, is on average, what we have found in all the reviews that we're doing, and all we do is review home inspections and create our reports, is that on average, and this is you put them all together, we're finding about $5,700 worth of repairs and maintenance in every single home inspection. When we break that down, about 25% of the home inspections we find have $1,000 or less in repairs. About 25% are $1,000 to $5,000. 25% are $5,000 to $10,000, and another 25% when you start to get those older homes, when you have needs like roofs and heating systems and so on, start to be $10,000 or more. And so that's the sort of shock that those buyers are getting when they're looking at these houses that we need to kind of help them through. So let's start to talk about we'll keep going in the process here. So a buyer is going through this process. They've ordered a home inspection. They now need to start to decide what those priorities are. So they get this document from the home inspector. And what we see on our side is that these documents range in size from 35 pages to 200 pages, depending on who the inspector is, how they document, how many pictures they use, how many different summaries through the inspection they give to make it work for all the different users. And so now you have a buyer who is already sort of stressed out because they have time commitments and new jobs and a house they need to sell. All these moving pieces need to figure out what their priorities are. And the reality is those priorities are going to vary from person to person depending on their scenario. What we have found in all of our research is that first-time home buyers are typically concerned about every issue in that home inspection. They want to know the what and the why and how much it's going to cost. When we get to second-time home buyers, they tend to be, second time and beyond, they tend to get more concerned about major systems. They're good with all the little stuff, but they really don't want to take on someone else's foundation or roof or water heater or furnace problems. And so those are the big issues they're concerned about, and they typically just want to negotiate on the small issues. The reality is nobody wants to take on anybody else's problems, but they're also willing to negotiate through that process. So deciding those priorities is a big deal, and trying to figure out how to communicate that back and forth between the agent and that buyer is important. So then we get to that next step, right? Is that the buyer doesn't know how they're supposed to prioritize this information, how significant it is. And typically you'll get a real estate agent who will say, well, it's time to get a contractor in. And typically we shared earlier that most home inspections have a need for somewhere between 5 to 7 different contractors, depending on the work that's found, from electricians to plumbers to flooring people or whatever it is. So that can be a big challenge getting all those people in. It can be even a bigger challenge now with some of the COVID challenges. And you have sellers not wanting to have all these people coming to their house. On top of that, you have contractors who don't want to get out there to get into all these houses. So it's a challenge in itself. And then you have the real estate agent doing everything they can in their power, and they do a great job to use their relationships to get this information for their buyers. That's one of those pieces of the second half of the home inspection that creates challenges, especially since everything is time sensitive. You can imagine how hard it can be to call a contractor and say, hey, can you come out to this house today? And they go, wait a minute, I have 3 other jobs I have to finish today that are getting paid, and you're just asking me for a general estimate on something I don't know if I'll ever get that job. And so that can be a hard part of that transaction. So we just kind of touched on coordinating with the contractors. The reality is that they are busy. Getting them to the work sites can be very, very challenging. On top of that, multiple visits by contractors can also be super frustrating to sellers. And the reality, what we recognize, and I know this coming out of my years in the real estate business, is that we need to keep the sellers on our side. We want them to be able to negotiate with the buyers. We want them to be interested in making the deal happen, not for them to be getting frustrated. So we kind of want to calm that process down. All right, so let's say you actually get that contractor to come on out. The next challenge is actually getting them to provide a written estimate. And that can be a problem in itself, just because many times contractors don't have an estimating system in place. They're busy. They just don't have the time to get around to it. They're happy to give you a verbal gut check. But the reality is, until they actually get into the job, they don't know what's going to cost. So they work to give just that general estimate. And again, when you're a home buyer spending $300,000, $500,000, $700,000, you're trying to get as exact as possible, yet getting that information is really difficult. So that's another piece of that puzzle that can present problems. We get to that point where we have all the information. We have the contractor, we have the inspection in hand, we have the contractor's information, and now we have to figure out how to synthesize that data. What we mean by that is buyers and their agents go back and forth, deciding what's important, what should they try to negotiate, what are going to be the items that the seller may say yes or may say no to, or what items might be deal killers, where the seller just says, it's time for you to go, this isn't the right house for you. So synthesizing that data takes time. It's a back and forth process between the buyer, their agent, sometimes between partners and spouses, just trying to figure out what to do. And all of this is under that super time sensitive contingency, in which you need to have this done or you're buying the house as is. That's how these contracts are written. Look, if you don't respond or you don't reject, you're buying this house as is. So it's a super time sensitive process. And then we get into drafting the repair addendum. That itself, I can tell you, coming from a real estate standpoint, has its own challenges. It's definitely a cut and paste sort of a scenario, in which literally, as a real estate agent, you're going through that inspection, cutting and pasting different pieces, trying to make it into a pretty form so that you can present it to the seller and their agent to try to get them to say yes to that discount, or yes to that new furnace, or yes to that new roof, whatever it is. So drafting that repair addendum has its challenges also. And I've used the word challenge a lot here. I guess I need to come up with some more. I need to go back to my thesaurus to come up with a few more words, but these are all challenges that buyers face. And I think it's an appropriate word for today as we look at the second half of the home inspection, because these are all things happening after the home inspector has presented their work of art. Here's what's going on. Here's what this house looks like. Now go decide what you want to do. And so we find that space of wanting to help them figure out what to do. So, and then finally, we have the negotiation process. And the reality is the negotiation process can go on for days, especially when you have a seller who may already be frustrated, a buyer who doesn't know what they want to do. Maybe they've encountered $10,000 worth of repairs, and the seller is saying, look, this is an as-is sale. I never intended to reduce it anymore. You know what you're getting. And the buyer doesn't have a penny in their pocket left after they're making the purchase to do any of these repairs. So negotiations can be a challenge. And I will tell you, what we have found is the sooner you can get to the negotiating table, the better off you are. Sellers want to sell, but they're on a time schedule. Buyers want to buy, but they're on a time schedule. And so the sooner you can get in to start those negotiations, the better off everybody is. But this all takes time. And so as we come back, and let's review this one more time, we have this whole process that is the second half of the home inspection, and that's what we've outlined on one slide here. You have the inspection review. You have the point of where you're deciding these priorities. You have a point of where you're going to be finding contractors, whether it's with friends or agents or otherwise, coordinating visits with these contractors, getting the contractor quotes, synthesizing with the buyer. This is from an agent's standpoint. This is all the parties coming together, drafting that repair addendum, and negotiating. It's a big process, and you have to get all of this done typically in somewhere between 8 and 15 days. Typically, by the time you get the home inspection in hand, depending on how busy your home inspector is, you may have only 5 to 7 days left to accomplish all this. It's not easy. And so really, this is what that process looks like. This is the second half of the home inspection currently. Ben, any questions?
No, I understand what you mean by the second half. There's a lot of
Cool.
work after I write the report and hand it over. And there's
Yeah.
still a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of look at the whole process, and the reality is we talked about when we started this, that Majordomo came around to really help buyers become that head steward of their household. We came to encourage and improve the homeownership process, improve neighborhoods and homes. The reality is that home inspection is an incredible collection of information that paints a picture of that home. And it comes right down to one thing. Buyers don't want to pay too much or be left with somebody else's problems. And that's what the whole second half of the home inspection is about. So thus Majordomo was born. Majordomo is all about helping folks in that second half of the home inspection. And the reality is, if we get right down to it, it's to help people understand and help home inspectors answer that number one question they get when they turn over that home inspection or they do that final walkthrough, which is, how much will that repair cost? That's kind of where this all starts. That's that number one question they get. And the reality is that question doesn't have to be avoided. It can be answered pretty quickly. And we have figured out a way to do that. The other thing is that this is a very detailed process, both for the agent and the buyer themselves. That can be very, very stressful. And so we want to help people get through that as fast as possible with as accurate information as possible. And through our research, we learned a lot before we built our product, and to come to this realization that it's not just about the estimate, it's about understanding, it's about information, it's about what it's going to take, because buyers are in love with these homes. They don't want to walk away from them. They just don't want to end up with somebody's significant problem and not know what to do with it. So that's where Majordomo came along. So is it okay if I start talking a little bit about our product now, Ben?
For sure. Yeah, one of the personal experiences I had as a home inspector is,
Yeah.
I would print out a summary report, and real estate agents, and just like you said, everyone's on the timeline, and they would just take action as fast as possible. And so I would be pressured to give them estimates, and
Yeah.
likely I would overestimate or maybe severely underestimate, and just make there's a huge area there's a margin of error that's big right there, because there's this pressure. As soon as I'm done with the inspection, a lot of action takes place. And so having a system in place that's more detail-oriented and structured would have probably benefited my inspection company a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because we just want to help them use that information and paint a picture for them with that information. What inspectors does is crucial, because they need to be a third party who is just there to tell the story of that home on that particular day at that time. It's not leaning to one side or another. It's just giving the details and letting that buyer do what they want with that information. And that's key, because if, like you were just saying, if you're being pressured, suddenly the next step in that pressure is, hey, Ben, what do you think about this problem? Do you think this is a big problem? Should I be concerned about this? And, I don't think any inspector wants to be put in that position these days, even though they are every day. Those are those challenging questions where, is a tiny vertical crack in a foundation a significant concern? And I think the answer in today's world is, well, you have to decide if it's a concern for you, so those are definitely the challenges that are being faced. So we try to provide a system to ease that pain, I guess is the best way to say it. So let's talk a little bit about what we do. So here at Majordomo, we will human analyze and estimate any home inspection from across the United States in 24 hours or less. So that's kind of the first premise, is that we provide those estimates, but it's not just the estimates. The estimates are actually pretty easy. It is creating the system that makes the information usable and functional. And matter of fact, we've created a system that allows that home inspection to have life far after just the home inspection itself. So let's roll into what that looks like. So the first thing we do is we will take a PDF of any home inspection, human analyze that information, and extract all of the defect and maintenance data and put it into a super easy to read form. In this case, this is the front page of what we call our Domo report. The Domo report is where we will collect all the pertinent information from the inspection, things like the date, the weather. We highlight the inspector who did the inspection, so that stays with that inspection forever. We'll highlight the real estate broker because we think they are a key part of the process. We grab the address, we actually grab the picture from the home inspection, and we kind of keep it in place. First thing we do is right at the top, we provide a repairs summary. This comes from a lot of research and talking with buyers of what they wanted to see when they got that home inspection. A summary is super important. They also want it in such a way of telling me how many issues I have and how much it's going to cost. And so we will take those items and we break it down into this all repairs box. Urgent repairs, for us, urgent is anything that are safety and health. Everything that's safety and health goes in urgent. Everything that's going to lead to safety and health related issues, we put in pressing. And then we also have cosmetic issues. Those will be sheetrock issues or a cracked driveway or stuff like that. And then we also have this My Repairs box, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But the reality is, it is a quick summary. And interestingly enough, when we first designed this report, we had just this one box that said all repairs. And real estate agents jumped out of their chairs and said, no way, this will just scare buyers off. They need to have a better understanding. So when we interviewed real estate agents, they said it needs to have more clarity. When we interviewed buyers, they said, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. So it was like this conflicting information, right? And so we decided to break it down where folks can see it however they want. So when they go through our report, they can actually click on all these boxes and see those specific areas, those specific items to whatever their interest is. The other thing that we do, because it is all human analyzed, we have this spot on our report called Majordomo notes. And every time one of our analysts who goes through these, our industry experts who goes through these reports, if they have issues or they have questions or comments for the actual homeowner, they will share them there. So for example, we stray away from significant foundation issues and significant mold issues. We won't estimate those. Those are too big of issues. They need to have those specialists. And so we'll leave those notes there, right? And so they know that there's definitely that human touch involved, but it's real. We want to have that connection with them. So that's really important. So this is what the start of our report looks like. It's simple, it's easy to read. We then break down into the meat and potatoes of this. We are providing local estimates. Every home inspection is reviewed by humans. These are industry experts. All of our data is market specific, so it's right down to zip code. On a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, we are our data is coming from literally 35,000 providers across the country, looking at 20,000 different projects, and it allows us to be super hyper local. The thing that we do though is we also break it down. So in this case, we provide the user to review their inspection based on project type. They can sort it by cost estimate, contractor type, priority, really looking however they want. We just want it to be as easy to use as possible. There's another piece of this though that is just as important, and that is we break down every single project into details. And what that means is that we provide, first of all, we provide a cost estimate range. And we provide that range specifically because we know whatever we do, if we provide a specific number, we will be wrong, right? There's just no way to know that a specific toilet's going to cost $212 to install. It's just, we're just going to be wrong. So all of our estimates are coming from actual invoices and estimates that were done in these market areas for jobs just like those that are in the inspection. So we give very accurate estimate ranges, and then we break it down into materials, labor, equipment, and any minimum trip charges. We do that specifically because buyers have said, especially buyers who are going to be doing DIY projects, that they want to know the scale of that project. So if that project might only have, let's say, $4 to $7 of materials, but there's up to $250 of labor, that buyer can say, you know what, I can handle this. And it's going to be a lot less expensive than maybe $500. It might be $12 in materials and I can do it. So this really helps inform that buyer that they have options. It may not be $10,000 worth of repairs on a house. It might be $1,200 worth of materials in their time to do those jobs if they're confident that they can do them. So we're trying to instill that confidence that you might have as a major domo, as that head steward of a house, by providing all this knowledge and breakdown. So we take every estimate, we take every defect and maintenance item and break it down into a project, which is what you see here. And every project is then broken down into these different areas of the estimate to help folks understand what they are. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the work that we do. Yeah. And then one of the beauties of how our system works is that we talked about that synthesizing of data and trying to decide what's important. On the report, you can see on the screen these boxes on the left-hand side of the screen. When a user chooses one of these boxes, it populates their My Repairs. Okay? The My Repairs are those things that are going to be the most crucial items, the most significant to that buyer, so that they can focus on what it is that matters to them. They can then share it directly with their real estate agent, so the real estate agent knows what those items are. We then take all of those items, they can click this little print button and translate it into a single document that they can now attach to their repair addendum to their seller. And they just deliver it and say, look, give us a credit for $1,200 or go fix these repairs. The document will show what the defect is. It will show what the project is and how much it's going to cost to do that repair. So the seller is going to get all of that detail without too much detail. It looks and acts just like an estimate that they may get from a contractor. We actually make notes on the bottom of this document. So if the seller wants to know where these estimates come from, they just come to Majordomo, and we have a complete document showing them why our numbers are correct. And so this is a part of the process to make their lives way easier so that they can, I can tell you last night, Ben, we got an order in from the Seattle area about 4:30 yesterday. We had their order delivered to them by about 7:30 last night, or their Domo report delivered to them. And we know based on web traffic and such that they were online within minutes looking at it and starting to figure out what those important pieces were, right? That's good stuff. They had that inspection on Saturday, and by Sunday at 7 o'clock, they had their estimates in hand. And my guess is they're off negotiating today. Good for them. So if we come down a little bit further, we talked about what we offer being really kind of this inclusive product. When we came up with Majordomo, we created this score called the Domo score, and it's an interesting idea. It's a house condition score that looks and acts like a FICO credit score, but it's a condition score for a house. And we think a house is a pretty big deal, so the score goes from 0 to 10,000. Very few houses get 10,000s outside of those that are finished on day one, because what we do know is the day the house is finished, it starts to break down and depreciate from that moment going forward. And so we created this score called the Domo score. Every single Domo report includes it. As a matter of fact, On our website, we have an area where anybody can go get a Domo score for free. You go, you answer about 22 questions, and you get a score with recommendations of areas that you should look at. The great thing about the Domo score is it gives somebody a really quick overview of what the condition is. What are the items that are in best condition? What are the items that are in worst condition? And then we also make recommendations of how to do those repairs right through here. So every report comes with this. People can use the tool for free. It's not a replacement for a home inspection by any means. It just helps somebody better understand the overall product or the overall home. So it's an important piece of what we're doing. We imagined when we had first created the Domo score that eventually online, when you went to these real estate websites, you would see this estimated value and this estimated condition. And we still think that's possible one day, because that would be very cool. And we had this idea also that you would have a user score, and then you would have a verified score. Like someday when you had an inspection, you could verify this information to be correct, right? Super important information when you're buying a home. So that's what the Domo score is, and that's included with every single order.
That's pretty cool.
One of the favorite parts of our report, and I will tell you, it kills me that more people don't use this, but one of the favorite parts of our report is what we call Explore. When somebody places an order with us, it's usually within about 15 minutes, but we promise within about 4 hours, they will get an email. And here's what it says. It says, while you're waiting for your Domo report, we encourage you to do some additional due diligence on your home. We have put together a collection of these resources where you can come and find out things like, is my home solar ready? What's the walking score of my home? How does the home energy use of my home stack up? Where do I find out if there have been insurance claims? Where do I find building permits? And so we will create for every single address a list of national and state, county, and city resources. So while a buyer is waiting for their report, they can be doing this additional due diligence. These are all sorts of things that typically the real estate agent will advise their client to go do. Sometimes real estate agents do, sometimes they don't, but it's all good information. You know, should somebody review building permits? Of course they should. Are they too excited to get their inspection? Yes. So if we can give them something to do in that process, we think that's a good thing. So this takes time and takes effort on behalf of our team, but every single report will come with this. The good news is, you know, all the state resources are always the same. All the national resources are the same. But for every community, we literally stop what we're doing and create those resources to point them in the right direction so they can get as much information as possible. And usually what happens is people just start to feel more comfortable with their home, right? Reality is 95% of the homes out there are good homes, and they're solid, and you know, they make sense. They all have a need for maintenance and other stuff, but they're good homes. But about 5% of them, you find some scary stuff on that make you run away really fast. So every order comes with that. We have this tool called Documents. Every single order has this space on our website where people can store not only their home inspection, but they can store any documents related to their house. They can store paint colors. They can store all sorts of things in one place. Everything I'm talking about here is included with the Domo report. It's saved online forever. There's no additional charge beyond the one-time charge for the Domo report. So this isn't a subscription, a yearly subscription or anything like that, or monthly charge. This is just there and they can continue to use it. The reality is what we want to be able to do over time is help them use that information to be a smarter homeowner. So we have to provide these services to help that along. But our Documents is a really beautiful filing cabinet that allows for everything to be kept in one place. So we'll have people who will load on here their sewer inspections or their additional pictures or their title reports or whatever it is. So it's all in one place. And the good news is our report can be shared with others, so you can turn over the ownership if you like at some point. Yeah. So I talked about saving the inspection. A couple of the interesting stats we found in our research is that about 85% of the folks out there who purchased a home had not looked at their home inspection within about 3 to 5 days after they received it. That was kind of crazy. A significant portion of those people did not even know where it was located anymore. and it might have just been an email, they didn't save it, whatever that is. And so in our case, we're going to put it in one place in a secure online area where they can have it forever. It's easy to read. It's right there for them. We think our kind of underlying belief system is that the home inspection is a key piece to the success of that homeowner. We don't think enough people use it. We think that it's kind of this, it's this guiding light to here's what you should be doing, and here are the things you should be paying attention to, and the next steps you should be taking. And it really kind of creates that benchmark for home ownership. So in the Majordomo world, we really want to help people use that inspection. Coming out of the gate, we see our space as helping people from an estimating standpoint, negotiating and trying to feel comfortable with that home. As we grow, you can imagine we'll be able to make very, very safe and reliable recommendations that are specific to that home, right? And so instead of saying it's fall, it's time to clean the leaves out of your gutters, we're going to be able to say your inspector 3 years ago said your roof was near the end of its life. If you haven't replaced it, you should probably do it now, right? That's the sort of deep detail we're going to be able to handle, and we're excited about that. So I love this term that so many inspectors have been labeled because they don't have to be. I mean, we hear it over and over again when we interview inspectors that they hate being called deal killers. And they're not deal killers. They are folks who are just discovering information and relaying that information so the buyer can make better decisions. Part of what we've tried to create is a system that takes that report from being overwhelming and sometimes scary to understandable and manageable, so that we don't have deal killers, we have opportunities in front of us. And that's a big part of what we do is creating that opportunity. So from an inspector standpoint, so we're a new company. We just released this Domo report on October 1st of last year. We spent our first 3 months just testing it in the marketplace with a small handful of users, both real estate agents and inspectors, to help understand what we're doing. The reality is we are now growing. We have quite a few inspectors out there who are using us and recommending us, and it helps them stand out from the rest of the crowd. When I say using us, they are simply recommending us, right? And in our case, we do have programs in which inspectors can resell the system. I don't have a lot doing that at this point. I do have inspectors who have reached out to us, and we are giving them special coupon codes. So if one of their clients wants to use us, they can get a discount for using the service, you know, and the inspector definitely becomes that hero to pointing them in that right direction. And so that's kind of the space where we're doing really well at this point, is the fact that we're providing inspectors a good resource. But there are some that are seriously consider using us as part of their daily process to electronically deliver that inspection for them, to store it, to make those recommendations, and keep referencing back to that inspector to create that relationship. So when I talk about getting ahead of the competition here, the inspector space continues to evolve. I love the services that those inspectors who are ahead of the game are currently doing. You know, those who are now one-stop shops for mold and radon and for sewer line inspections. That's brilliant. What we want to be able to offer is that next step is, once you have that information, what to do with it. And using Majordomo as part of the business plan, I think, can help do that. So we electronically deliver all of our inspections. I know that's not rocket science in today's world, but we do it in such a way that we store it on our system forever. People have access to it for no additional charge. We give them access to the documents I talked about, all the estimates, and the reality is we'll turn that into a recommendation system as we go along, to make that even easier. So we're trying to make that a better process for the whole inspection. So we do have partner programs in place. So just a heads up, if anybody wants to talk to that, feel free to email me. You can also call me. I'll have my information here at the end. What we talk about as far as partner programs, we can offer up voucher codes so your clients can have discounts on our Domo report. They can have access to the free Domo score tool, which is pretty awesome. We do have a program in which if inspectors want to resell our Domo report, that they can purchase it for less, include it with their inspection, and then just deliver it. And so they can make a few bucks along the process. And that could just be good for all. So that is in place. And we just suggest people reach out to us regarding that. I talked about what we're doing being always available. So we are not a one-time delivery. We are an app. Everything is stored online. It's available there forever. It's a one-time charge, so it's not a subscription. And our intent is that the service will continue with the recommendations that we make. So it's easy to use. Our team works 24/7, 365. We were working last Thanksgiving and Christmas delivering home estimates. We have an instant chat button on our website. It works. We typically get back to people within seconds. Sometimes it'll take 3 to 5 minutes, but we are always there to answer their questions. And that's really important for the homeowners. Sometimes they just want a little bit of clarity on something. They'll say, you know, did the estimate you give for caulking include the whole house or just the pictures that the inspector gave? And so we're able to provide that clarity so that they become as comfortable as possible, as fast as possible. So kind of the final step here is we believe in our product. We give a 60-day money-back guarantee for anybody who purchases it. If they're not happy with our data, if they're not happy with the service, if they think our estimates are wrong, they can reach out and just tell us so, and we'll give them their $59 back, which is the cost of using our service. It is really that simple. And then, Ben, for everybody who is taking in our webinar today, we do think that it's right to give it a try to see what you think on your own. So we offer every home inspector a free Domo report so they can actually see it, they can try it. I've had inspectors out there go back in their records and find the scariest home inspection they had and send it to me. And let's just say those take us a long time, but it's worth it, and it's challenging, and it's fun to hear their feedback because we only get better when we get challenged in our own space. And so I put up my email here. My phone number, anybody can reach me anytime, is 541-760-4742. So the reality is reach out to us at my email here if you want to give us a try. We'll give you a code so you can try out the system for free. You can challenge us. You can ask questions. We love to be pushed. I had a real estate agent yesterday on Sunday who reached out to me, and we were on the phone at 11 a.m. because he had some suggestions and ideas to make the system better. That's awesome. You know, we want to be there to help. So that's what we're doing. That is who we are and what we're doing and what the system looks like.
Awesome. I love it. I love the whole idea. I have a couple questions though, if you have some time.
Excellent, for sure.
So run us through the money again. Who pays, how do you make money? Who pays you? Home inspector, real estate agents, home seller, home buyer?
Yeah, most of our orders are coming through from either real estate agents looking to save themselves a significant amount of time. The reality is real estate agents will spend somewhere between 2 to 12 hours and 3 to 7 days working on the second half of the home inspection. If we can help save them 75% of that time for $59, it makes a ton of sense to them. So we get, currently we get about half of our orders coming directly from real estate agents. We get close to another half coming directly from buyers, some from sellers. That's an interesting one because the sellers, we'll get orders from sellers who they send us a note saying, we want to verify the information the buyer is telling us, and we want to do it fast. And you go, great, let's do that, right? And then currently we've just started our communications with inspectors. And so I don't have any at this moment, Ben, inspectors who are paying for it, none who have incorporated it into their systems. I have a whole bunch who are recommending it to their clients as that next step, as the second half of the home inspection. So their fingers aren't in on it, but they're pointing them in a direction.
Yep. I really like how you have this recommendation system in place, and that's why I really enjoy hearing that we as home inspectors can stay third-party neutral. We
Yeah.
gather this information, we provide it to our clients, and then they have this system, they have the option to manage their healthy home using your system.
Yeah,
And
for
maybe
sure.
the real estate agent is involved in that as well, because they need to, there's that timeline, there's that critical time where they need to make some decisions for their client in order to move them in. So I really like that. I like staying as I am as a home inspector, gathering information
Yeah.
and handing over the baton essentially to some system or something trusted that can help my client manage their home again.
Well, it's funny you bring up the baton, and I gave you a big smile on that one because one of our advisors is an inspector from my area who, over the last year, whenever we wanted to test things, we would go to him and we would say, "Hey, Matt, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" To make sure we were really testing this. We had a whole bunch of inspectors, but this was one who spoke with us on a regular basis. And he used the exact term. He said, "I kind of feel like we're passing you the baton because
Yep.
we leave these people with all of this information, and sometimes it can be scary." He goes, "And people just don't know what to do with it, right? And you guys are trying to help them figure out what to do with it." So hearing you say baton, the smile was there because he used the exact same term here. He was like, "I can pass you the baton." I was like, "Awesome. There
Yep.
you go." Yeah.
And I
So
like the
yeah, I
system.
appreciate that.
I like that you have a system in place that could make recommendations for me to come back, because there's this long history of maintenance that could be in place, archived and available for the homeowner. That could even be transferred to the next homeowner. And if there
Look,
could be another way for me to be part of that system and be part of that expert resource for that homeowner to maintain their healthy home, that'd be fantastic.
Look, I think there's a big opportunity to use the system to be recommending follow-up visits from inspectors because things start to build up. We have these major systems of the home that need regular checkups. Here's something I know from the real estate standpoint. Nobody likes climbing in their crawl space, climbing in their attic, or climbing on their roof. And they never know who they can have come out and do that. And the reality is, even if you hire a roofing company today, they charge you 80, 90, $100 just to come and look at your roof. If there's a way that a home inspector can come back and look at these, if there's a way we can recommend these home inspectors come back and look at some of these major systems for filler inspections or whatever it is, I think there's a great opportunity there. Plus, it serves that home, it serves that homeowner, and everybody. It's a win for everybody.
Yeah, we think InterNACHI thinks every home should be inspected every year. We
Yeah,
have a question from Carmen. It says,
excellent.
Lee, can you mentioned the ability of a home inspector to purchase the report from your company and provide it as a service to your clients, our
Yeah,
clients? Could you please expand on that idea? How does it work? Is it subscription based?
sure. Yeah, so the program we've created is not subscription based. It's based on each order. So there's not a regular monthly charge involved. If you get somebody who wants to place that order, you can do that. If someone like Carmen wanted to integrate Majordomo into their systems, they could choose to upcharge for it. So let's say Carmen charges $500 for an inspection now. Carmen could charge, let's say, $560, and we would charge Carmen whatever that amount is based on the quantity she's doing for those. So she would make X amount for incorporating it in. We would simply, what we would suggest and what we've been telling people to do is when they email the report to their client, email it to us, right? That would be the simplest way. Suddenly their hands are off of it. We take over. We then we will send them their report. They will know it's coming. So would they get two copies of it? Yes. Could Carmen set it up where they only got one copy? She could. But what I also know is people feel real time sensitive, so they want that inspection in hand as quick as possible. So if there's, whatever we can do to get that report in the hands of that buyer quickly is great. And then delivering that report within 24 hours. So as I mentioned, we don't have, so Carmen, you're out there. We don't have anybody right now who has it completely integrated into their system. We think that will happen as we grow and figure those pieces out. But one of the ways to be providing it right now is through our referral system.
Wonderful. And Carmen says, I'm a he, by the way.
Awesome. Sorry about that, Carmen.
Lee, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for telling us more about your company, Majordomo, and
Yeah, thank you.
I hope it's successful, and maybe we can do another webinar again.
We love it. Appreciate it, Ben. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye, Lee.
Thank you.